This is not a test. Don't expect to be impressed. Put on your life vest. Sit down your armrest. It's time to stray from the grind. Don't take my hand, 'cause you'll find no peace of mind. Side quest.
Hi there, and welcome to the Side Quest. When we're not having wacky adventures, we're having wacky realities, where we talk about crap and occasionally have a fascinating guest joining us. And before we get into that fascinating guest, we got the usual wankers. It's myself, Steve Wetherill, Rick Walteri, Robert Bevan. Say hello, everyone.
I was too busy wanking.
Hello, friends.
I'm now annoyed I didn't get to do the wanking joke first.
Well, you know, there's plenty of time.
You got to be quick here.
And speaking of getting in quick with the wanking jokes, welcome to CT Phipps.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Also, there's probably a reason why none of us are having live video.
Yeah, if you're watching Side Quest, if you're expecting a live video interview this time, I'm sorry, but we're all too busy masturbating. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the spokesmodels couldn't show up tonight. So rather than assault you with our faces,
Just the hand models.
Just imagine a pudgy young William Shatner, and you have me.
Excellent. That sets the tone nicely. That'll live in the imaginations of our listeners.
The rest of us are Pudgy Picard.
It's true. That's somebody's fantasy. Anyway, CT Phipps, author of many, many series, including Agent G, the Cthulhu Armageddon, Straight Out of Fangton, and the largest one, the Supervilliany saga.
Oh, yes. I've had the luck of being unable to stick to a single subject throughout my 6-year writing career.
Yeah.
I've been able to just, take advantage of the whole indie markets and just like, oh, well, I feel like writing a Cthulhu book, so I'm going to do that. And it's set in the post-apocalypse because, no one's going to tell me no as an editor. And then I'm going to do some urban fantasy books like What If Blades and Clerks Were Together, which is straight out of Fangton. And I Was a Teenage Weredeer, which I swear people only buy because of the title. And my most successful book...
It's an intriguing title.
My most successful titles, which are two, Space Academy Dropouts, which just came out on Audible via Podium, and the Supervilliany saga starts with The Rules of Supervilliany, which is my loving homage to all the money I've wasted on comic books for the past 40 years.
Oh, excellent. I mean, we've had authors on this podcast before, and we've had their various motivations for writing, and they are various. But that's the, just getting back at all the money you wasted on comic books. That's a solid motive, I think, for getting into publishing.
yeah.
Yes, if I actually make enough money for taxes, then I can write them off now. Research material. All the video games there, yes. It's just like, I have to get into this fantasy work here. Control, $70, straight off anything I pay to the government.
I love that. You're just sitting there looking at this huge mountain of media, just go, oh man, I've got to justify this.
Also, think of all the writing you'll get done in prison.
It's white-collar prison, man. I'll meet some celebrities. Then I'll send you to pound you in the ass prison for tax evasion.
Well, let's hope not.
There's always the exception to that rule.
True, very much so.
They're like, we were going to send you to the country club prison, but we just tossed some some rich execs in there, and it's kind of like it's kind of full. You'll be fine at Rikers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, these Amazon authors have been getting too uppity. We need to make some examples. Just get put in a gulag somewhere. That's where it's heading.
The rich must sacrifice some of their own on occasion to satisfy the mob. Random aside there, actually, I have the unique experience of having grown up in a family that was very rich, lost everything during the housing crisis there, and thus I actually have all these wonderful experiences of the country club set, which I can tell you, yes, they are in fact exactly like the villains from Caddyshack.
That's some interesting insight.
Oh, yes.
I thought you were going to say it was all ass pounding.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, and now he's in prison.
Lost everything in the housing crisis.
Particular insights into that area there. If it was going on beyond the scenes there. No, Man, this has just set the tone for the rest of the night, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about other things, but now we're talking about white collar ass pounding. That's what this podcast is about.
If you're going to pick your cellmate there, Ewan McGregor.
I'm not right. I've got to say, just for legal reasons, I'm not sure if Ewan McGregor has done anything illegal, or if he has been in prison, and I don't know what he's done in that prison. Redacted. Let's move on.
I'm picking CT Phipps. Innocent.
Oh.
I think I can make him my bitch.
You've only been talking to the guy for like 5 minutes, man. Let's hear him out, and then we'll decide who is whose bitch.
At least buy him flowers first. Jesus.
I don't need to be taking bitch making lessons from Rick.
I'm just saying, pack the shit, man. That's all I got to say. We got to make some examples. Okay. So, who shall we talk about the books thereof first in a shameless way of promoting them?
Well, you.
How about yours?
Yeah, you're the guest, man.
That's why you're here.
Well, that's a good.
Yeah, they listen to our shit every week.
Yes, but
If they haven't bought our stuff by now, they're not going to start.
I want to shamelessly promote Rick instead.
Well, here's an interesting turnaround.
Just kidding. No.
So tell us the CT Phipps story.
Oh, yes. Well, it's kind of funny there. As I graduated with my Master's of Literature, and I had the choice between either teaching college or writing. And, of course, I couldn't. It was at a bad time for getting any jobs teaching college, so I decided to do some writing. And I had a really great plan there that I would be the next Jim Butcher, and I would write this one long series of urban fantasy novels that would be massively successful and guide me to the rest of the world. And anyone who's actually been an author will, of course, understand how utterly stupid this plan was from the beginning. But it has some wonderful little veers and turns. Well, the first one is I did manage to sell the first book that I wrote for this urban fantasy series, which is called Esoterism. And it's basically spies versus the supernatural. It's, a pretty well-trodden area there, but, very snarky and fun. And I sold it, and then the company that had the rights for it, turns out, didn't actually want to publish it. So they kept just delaying it for like 1 or 2 years at a time. I'm waiting like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And meanwhile, as I was trying to figure out what to do for the sequels that, still hadn't been contracted, I had this wonderful idea for a bunch of superhero jokes because it was the start of the Marvel Universe and, Iron Man had just come out and all this other stuff. And I have been reading comic books since 3 years old, basically. And I shouldn't have been able to read at that time there, but I could. And I actually once polybagged all of my Spider-Man comics and used them to decorate my walls. I put a little piece of plastic tape on the back and cover it. So, yeah, I was a big superhero fan the entire time there, and I had a lot of superhero jokes. So I combined them all into one enormous, actually fairly short book there, about 60,000 or 70,000 words, and I called it The Rules of Supervilliany, and I just threw it out self-published and with some later with some indie publishers as well who were just, self-publishers themselves there. I was like, well, this is not going to do anything good there. And hilariously, as my other book remained in a legal limbo because they didn't want to give it back to me, but they didn't actually want to publish it, The Rules of Supervilliany took off. And if you just check it on Audible, it has 4,800 ratings and 400 and I think 20 reviews on Amazon.
Nice.
Very nice.
I'm really curious about what was so dangerous about this book you submitted that they can't possibly release it.
You got too close to the truth, man.
I mean, pretty much it's about the government covering up the supernatural and being an asshole about it and incompetent. And it's like, well, clearly that must be true. But no, the actual story was way back when there was this indie zombie and horror novel publisher called Bermuda Press, which was very successful and did some wonderful books like X Heroes and a few others that had decent franchising. And, well, they got bought by these people from California who thought they were going to be publishers. And then they thought, well, zombie books are going to be the next big thing. So let's hire every single zombie book we can there. And, and this other thing they submitted. And then they finally released their first couple of zombie novels, and they sold absolutely nothing. And it's like, oh, my God, we've got like the rights for like 200 books we've agreed to publish, and no one's going to buy any of them.
Man, I'd love to have enough money to just be stupid about stuff. Sounds great.
Oh yes, I used to be rich actually, and again, that was a wonderful experience to be able to spend money like on ridiculously bad ideas.
Did you ever just buy like 200 zombie novels and think, oh my god, why did I do this?
Well, I still have that quality with my Kindle. Is there's like, I check my Kindle, I've got 200 novels here to read. They're all impulse buys.
I was going to say, maybe we should move away from books. I want to hear stories about your cocaine-fueled hooker adventures here.
Oh man, that was something I really should have gotten in on while I had the chance. Damn it!
A solid investment.
I did, in fact, actually have my first hilarious, stupid drug use moment, actually, because I grew up in a family of teeter-tollers. That started with me because the rest of my family were a bunch of stupid drunks. And, having abstained my entire life from alcohol, smoking, and any other form of recreational substance there, my wife does not there and is much more of the hippie bent there. And since my niece came to live with us, she baked an entire 2 plates of cookies, and I just thought, oh, that's nice of her. I think I'll eat some of these cookies.
Reasonable.
Yes, eating 4 of these cookies, I suddenly could feel the infinity of the universe and became one of those philosophical stoners and lived under a blanket for a day.
That sounds ideal.
And now I'm envisioning your cousin's knocking on your door being like, hey, we're flying down to Peru to grab some coke and like hookers, and you're like, as you're like stapling Spider-Man to your walls, like, I'm busy redecorating.
Oh yes, well apparently I'm a complete lightweight because I passed out and went into bizarre universes having eaten just a couple of pot cookies. So hey.
All right, you said you used to be rich. Is this why you're now sucking dick for meth?
Man, and you can do that? I thought that was just for fun. I think you did on the meth. Oh, but actually, I live in rural Kentucky, so literally everyone who passes by is either on meth or opioids. So hey, it's kind of funny there that I was wondering what my small rural town's primary export is now that the steel plants have gone down. It's like, well, the primary exports are pills and opioids and drugs of a much more methy kind. And I'm like, oh. That's actually our legitimate biggest import. Yep.
Well, as long as the economy's trucking along.
Oh, yes.
Welcome to Methburg, the meth capital of the world.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. We're not nearly that good. We're like 3rd or 4th in the state, man.
Not even the meth capital of the world. That's it. You're sitting there eating your pot cookies.
Yeah, we're on a nice little river there, but it is kind of noticeable when they have a headline saying like 250,000 pills confiscated from a local distillery, and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm going to the wrong pharmacy.
That's a lot of pills. Yeah, what are they doing with those pills?
I mean,
just out of interest,
taking them and feeling incredibly numb, then dying.
All right,
obviously getting caught by the cops with them.
Is that the people that are confiscating the pills?
Oh yes. The local police clearly had to have been doing a shakedown there because otherwise they would never have caught anything. We have a wonderful collection of nice and competent as well as stupidly evil.
So what you're saying is like pot being baked into your cookie was the good option. It could have been a lot worse.
Well, I'm just saying that if I feel cheated of the fact that I spent 40 years abstaining from drugs there because clearly I'm not able to take them normally. So what was the actual point of educating me not to do it? What a waste of dare money.
Still, I mean, something at the end of the day, like, having a trip, visiting other worlds, that's a lot better than being like, well, and then I woke up and I was like eating a homeless man's face.
I ate a plate of meth cookies and now I'm in white collar prison.
Yeah, we're not doing great job there with my drug knowledge. It's like they talk about, and this man committed cannibalism and mass murder on bath salts. And I'm like, wow, who snorts the bath salts? And I take them all the time in my bath.
In all fairness, that was my first thing too. I was just like, what? Somebody looked at one of their bath bombs and said, shooting this up would be awesome.
Somebody's definitely done that.
Yes, my drug lingo is not particularly great, especially as I tried to explain what my condition was to my seasoned pot-using relatives, and they were like, "You fucking dumbass."
It sounds like if you're living in the meth, I guess, suburb of America, you should be a little bit more au fait about what's going around. You don't want to be dropping bags of meth into your bath.
Yes. Well, I just didn't notice there. As I said, it was also a thing there when I mentioned, of course, my family was rich there. It's like, then I would note that my father would often hang around with these big, large biker guys. And I'm like, oh, they're, just just a bunch of friendly guys there. And it turns out that apparently my father used to be the one to pay off the Hells Angels people from not disrupting events.
Well, sensible.
Yeah, so I'm like, so you're the bag man, Tom.
Yeah. That's an ancient business model. We've been doing that since the Vikings.
Oh, yeah. Well, but yeah, my authorial experience there, I learned a few things from all my experimentation. One is you should always finish the series you start. Two, if you do develop a style that you're comfortable with, which is in my case, first-person snarky assholes, you should probably stick to that. And one, even if you have a great fandom for one of your book series, which in this case the Supervilliany saga there, you're not necessarily going to have the same fandom for any of your other book series.
Don't I fucking know it?
Trust me.
Yeah.
Well aware.
Oh, yes. And it's kind of funny there because also, as I'm going to say, it's great to promote your fellow indie authors and to be great and do reviews and network and make good friends there. But also, of the 5 authors you do that for, one of them will probably return the favor.
Oh, man, yeah. That is absolutely true.
Oh, yes. I've made some truly wonderful friends and contacts and connections over the years there. And I also know these other people who will send me every one of their books to review and then say have you finished them yet? Week later.
Get you the next time, pal. Yeah. 1 in 5 seems about right, actually.
Yeah, I was something, and hey, also I've done all these reviews for you, and I've did an interview, and I was curious. Hey, would you like to read one of my books or share it with your newsletter? No, not my bag.
Yeah, the indie world can be a little bit cutthroat.
Oh yes, I mean I also have some more stories about that. I told you about the Permuted Press thing, but I actually have even worse stories. I actually did have a publisher who never paid me because they ended up spending all the profits from my books that they had received and selling my rights to Audible without promoting their website.
Oh,
well,
that was good of him.
That's nice.
Oh yes, and other things there. It's like no. As soon as the money rolls in for the other things, I'll pay everyone back.
Yeah, I tend to take kind of a Nick Fury's granddad view on that. It's like granddad loved people, but he didn't trust them.
It'd be hilarious if you were just working a 9-to-5 job and your boss went well, I had your paycheck, but then I went down to the casino and put it all on black, and I'll pay you when that comes through.
And unfortunately, that's way too common. People get into this business, it's oh well, this indie publishing thing is easy. I'm gonna just become a publisher. Then they realize that hey, this actually costs money, and not every book takes off, and screw it, damn it, I have to actually pay these authors. Fuck it, I'm leaving town.
Hey, fraud is easy.
Oh yes, I eventually got hooked up with Crossroad Press, which is it's not so, I wouldn't call it an indie publisher, probably a mid-tier there because it's like 10,000 books, but it is not one of the big 6 either. And I'm relatively satisfied with them because I can say I'm published by the same guy who does Brian Lumley and Clive Barker's audiobooks. Yep. It's I can pretend I'm cropped into the picture.
Yeah, nice.
Nope, that is definitely solid. That doesn't feel like a business model that's going to collapse overnight because it's it's like, hey, I signed 3 authors, none of whom anybody has ever heard.
Well, it's definitely a good post on that there. I do have one famous bit of nerd trivia about my indie experience that isn't related to my books per se, and can talk about them all day there, but you would actually have to throw a question or two at me. I actually am the guy who negotiated the republishing of the Vampire the Masquerade novels from the 90s.
Well, that is an unexpected connection.
Yes, you see, basically, I was going a huge, lame tabletop gaming nerd. I wasn't even the cool vampire guy who dressed up and tries to get laid at the various LARPs. Okay.
Oh yeah, that cool guy,
Captain Bonzi.
Yes. No, I was the big fat nerd who played at home like Dungeons and Dragons. Well, yeah, at 14, and to 19 in there, and high school. And then, the World of Darkness shut its doors for a while there. And I was, and I read the novels and I enjoyed them. And then I was like, when I was like 38, which was like a couple of years ago, before the world destroyed itself. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go reread those novels. And I'm like, oh, hey, none of them are available on Kindle. And it's just been bought by Paradox. And I'm like, it's still in business. And I was like, hey, why are you guys not in Kindle? And there's like, a book is like, well, we don't have anyone who can publish these novels again. And I'm like, I went to Crossroad Press and I was like, hey, would you like to publish all these old vampire novels that are already published? And he's like, okay, sure. Which, should have been the end of the story and it would have been easy money for everyone. But it turns out all of the novels were only saved on PDF. And it wasn't even saving the text in PDF. They had taken photos of the pictures.
Oh, that's a terrible way of doing things.
Yes, that was how they were saved. So it was like they had to figure out ways. So they had to order a bunch of the old paperbacks from the 90s and then scan them individually to get all the text back.
See how an easy win became a not so easy win.
But they succeeded and they managed to get the Clan novels back out there. And I have given my own contribution to Dungeons and Dragons tabletoping history, except it's White Wolf.
I worked in web development for 20 years, and the easiest way to turn an easy victory into a complete shit show is to be like, hey, give me all your information. Oh, it's all in this shitty PDF.
Well, there you go. You've done your part for the restoration of nerd history. Then you've given something back.
Yes, it was. I asked them, would you want to be doing any of the other series that they published in the past? And they're like, fuck no.
Yeah, just the one that people give a shit about. Thanks. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So what I want to know about is Cthulhu Armageddon, because I haven't really read too many Western novels in my time, but that one I've seen it around, and I'm like, that's probably one of the few ones that would tempt me to actually read a Western.
Oh, it's not just a Western. It's a post-apocalypse Western. It's Cthulhu plus Fallout New Vegas.
Well, to be fair, when you watch a Western films, it seems a little bit post-apocalypse. It's just like they're not quite... Oh, yes. They didn't have anything to lose there.
It's a combination of genres there, but the basic premise of the idea is I was thinking about how, there's always these kind of Lovecraft novels that are made about as like, they're going to summon the big, huge demon, but we're going to stop the ritual that ends the world. Or, we have the hardcore Lovecraft purist who's like, and the monster will eat the guy at the end. But that's only you can only do a short story with that. And in college, in one of those little coincidences there, you read these series of novels from the 70s by Brian Lumley, who did the Necroscope novels, called Titus Crow, which was... Brian Lumley doing this over-the-top crazy wizard fighting the great old ones. I was like, well, that was an enjoyable series, but not really particularly Lovecraftian. And so it percolated in my brain, what if we did a series of novels which take place with the idea that Cthulhu has already, quote-unquote, won. The great old ones rose. Humankind lost 90% of its population in the first few days. And the setting is maybe 100 years later, the survivors of humanity are trying to just eke out an existence in the shadow of all these giant monsters and incredible environmental changes, and let's just say physics as a whole concept breaking down.
I dig it.
And I was like, that's an interesting idea there. And I was thinking a little Dark Tower, a little The Stand. Here's and that would be well, if these people, what would humanity be living like in these villages? And was like, that feels like you could do a little Western theme there too. So I was like, okay, this is Fallout meets Mad Max meets Cthulhu, and I'm like, sure, that'll go with that. And the premise is that in one of these isolated compounds, there's this protagonist, John Henry Booth, who wakes up after surviving some shit going down. All of his squad is dead. And everyone blames him for it, that he either ran away or is somehow involved. And, they just set him up for hanging. And he breaks away with the help of another doctor who's trying to escape from the compound because she's in a big bunch of shit herself because, she killed her husband. And he's like, hey, ranger guy, other communities outside of our fortified compound. I don't think I'll make it on my own. So why don't I set you loose and we go together? And he's like, sure, I'll take you. but I'm actually going to go out into the wilderness and the wasteland so I can find who fucking killed my squad and kill them. And that just leads on to the story.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably should use, like Mad Max meets Call of Cthulhu as like a tagline. I think that's a selling point right there.
Just write that on a bar napkin. Just march into the Netflix headquarters. Just slam it on the table. Say "fuck you, pay me."
Yeah. Like I said, if we could get the special effects budget there, I'm sure I could do it. But yeah, I do actually want to try at the end of the year to try and get a script together for the Supervilliany saga to pitch it to Netflix. And I had the ideas like I'll try and sell it as Seinfeld meets superheroes.
You were great at pitches, man.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, Cthulhu Armageddon was one of those interesting things there because I did the book and it did very well there, but I had only envisioned it as a one shot, and then I had an idea for a sequel, and I did the sequel, and that was really good too, which was I think the Magnificent Seven versus Cthulhu, and I did that book, and that did very well then, and I was like, oh shit, I don't actually have a sequel for this, and so I left it as a duology.
Brokeback Mountain with Cthulhu. There. Trilogy.
Yes, that's just for my private use.
I wish I could quit Cthulhu.
They also beating pudding as well, just to make a reference that I hope some of you get.
Somebody will get it.
Okay.
I get it.
It all comes back to ass pounding.
Yes. Basically, yeah, and that's a good thing that I've also learned about having been a writer for 6 years there. I should have kept churning out Cthulhu books. I had a success there, and I was just like, well, let the story stand where it may. That was so dumb of me.
Oh,
ride that horse into the ground.
Trust me, man. I 100% understand. I see I see authors out there, and they're like on book like 73 of their series, and they're just raking in the cash, and my brain just will refuse to go there. It's just spinning in like a circle too much.
Oh yes, well, it's a funny thing there. The Supervilliany saga was meant to be just a trilogy, or at this point, some books got thin, and so I finished the series as I thought at book 4, and then my narrator, who had done all the books, Jeffrey Kafer, said to me, he's like, "You better fucking continue this book. It's making money for all of us." It's like, but all my other series and moving on to new projects, like continue with what works, damn it. And now I'm on like book 9.
I can kind of I can respect that. Yeah, I think we all need somebody like that in our life. Be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I totally assumed that's what happened with you and Bill.
No.
Because I've actually read all your books. Yeah. You wrapped up your entire series, and it's like, oh well, I'm going to start a new one with reversing everything. I'm like, good. That's what we fans want. Fuck the content of the story. We want more.
I think when your narrator comes round to your house with a hammer and says, "I've got a fucking mortgage to pay, man," you're onto something good. Keep on going.
Yes. Definitely there. I also threw some screwball situations there. It's like, because it's a superhero book. I think it was book 5 that I had the Crisis on Infinite Earth parody, and that was case I sent in a bunch of characters from my other book series, and the funniest thing is that actually did lead to a substantial uptick of people reading the other series.
Nice.
That's smart.
Yes, it's like, this is just a blatant cash grab of mine, and it's working out perfectly.
But that's the thing. It's like sometimes, I mean, you were talking about other series and stuff. It's like, and as much as I love, our various readers and stuff, man, the one thing that comes out of their lips that is like almost never true is the phrase, "I will read anything that you ever write."
Oh no, they won't. No, I mean, if you give them the books, maybe they'll get around to them eventually.
Yeah, I mean, if blatant cash grabs didn't work, then Disney wouldn't be more powerful than God.
Clearly, I should have gotten into this blatant cash grab thing sooner.
I love that you're just rolling into this podcast with some hard truths for the artists out there.
Oh, yes. It's like, they're always doing those interviews. It's like saying, what piece of advice would you give to people who want to be a writer? And I'm like, okay, don't expect to make any money off it. And don't expect your books to be any good at when you first write them. And, oh, by the way, hire a fucking editor. Oh, and if people write some criticism of your stuff, yes, they probably are right. except the people complaining about them being too woke. Fuck those guys.
The editor thing. I almost got into a fight with somebody earlier on TikTok because they were talking about how how authors telling other authors you should hire like a professional like editor or cover artist. They're like that's classist. You're basically like making fun of people for being too poor. And it's like no, you're trying to run a business and you're trying to sell a product.
Yes, I'm like,
you can't really give people excuses along the lines of, oh yeah, my product sucks because I'm too poor to pay for it.
Rick, you're way too old to fight with people on TikTok. You're gonna get your ass kicked.
Trust me, I am well aware. I've been told time and time again here how embarrassing it is for me to be there.
Oh, the TikTok thing is hilarious too there, because there was recently a TikTok controversy, finger wag, where TikTok readers were saying like, you should totally read these books and then return them to Amazon and get your money back because we're fighting against the corporate machine. It's like, lady, the only people hurt by that is me. Yeah. The authors are the ones paying the price there. Amazon doesn't care. Amazon wants you buying everything else you own from there, from the books.
Yeah, and also
they have long since moved away.
Amazon probably forgets that it holds a platform for self-publishing authors.
Oh yeah, yes, it's like if they could just have people continue to make content while not paying them a single dime, they would. And I think they've probably contemplated that a few times. Yeah. I remember when Kindle Unlimited first got started, and they I think reduced the amount they paid 3 or 4 times, and we stuck around because it was still money.
I really hope that the generation coming up does stick to their guns about like don't hire an editor, don't sell out to the corporations, because that means less competition for the rest of us.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I think all of us here at this table know that there are plenty of people who turn out absolute unedited crap that it follows no writing style whatsoever, and somehow they have managed, at least in a couple of genres, and I'm not even going to say real genres. You know which one I'm talking about. Somehow make more money than I've made in 5 years.
Again, you're rolling into this podcast with some hard truths, man.
I'm not saying it's lit RPG, but it's lit RPG.
I knew it was lit RPG.
Yeah, take two people. One person is a great writer, but a shitty marketer, and the other person is a shitty writer but a great marketer, and the great marketer is going to make a lot more money.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like I'm just saying that in the competition between me and the 3 ladies in bikinis on a Minotaur, I know that they're going to be buying the Minotaur.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Again, I'd love to say the generation come up realize don't hire an editor. In fact, don't write a book. Just be pretty and do a dance.
At some point, somebody's going to come up with a competing podcast called Hot Authors and Dragons, and they're going to blow us away within the first week.
Oh yeah,
I think that's every other D&D podcast.
Yeah, you might have a point. Maybe that's what we're doing wrong.
Why can't you people be better looking?
Well, it certainly would be my vote.
Just need to get a bikini.
Which would I rather look at? You or insert cosplayer of your choice.
We need to make one of our Patreon tiers hire spokesmodels and say, you're us.
Just get some dumb, good-looking people off TikTok and just go, all right, I'm going to say some lines, just deliver them. All right, you don't have to understand what's going on. Just stand there and be pretty.
This girl is currently dressed as Jessica Rabbit and talking about my book. Way better than this.
Did I pronounce that right? Nobody cares. Just keep reading.
Yeah, it's interesting enough there. I also am doing the shared universe thing for my books, at least to a certain extent there. I mean, I did like Brandon Sanderson did with the fact that technically all of my books take place in the same multiverse, but that doesn't really count. It was only when I actually started combining the little genres one after the other that it became kind of an interesting way of cross-marketing. I have, first of all, my Supervilliany books, which are their timeline, but all these characters cross over from their universes. Second, I have the United States of Monsters, which is where all of my urban fantasy takes place. And I'm not saying it's identical to the World of Darkness, but it's identical to the World of Darkness, except the monsters are public. That's where I take the piss out of every single urban fantasy idea whatsoever. There's Strand of Fankton, which is Clerks meets Blades, and the idea is, what if you have a vampire that works at a convenience store? Because lame vampires are a great success. Look at Rick.
It's true.
Yes. Poor Peter's a poor black vampire working at the convenience store with his friend, and somehow he gets constantly sucked into the big, sexy elder vampire politics. And, that kind of Charlie Brown ill luck is just always manages to sell itself. And I did and I was a teenage weredeer, which is the books about the werewolves, except I chose the absolutely lamest animal you could be while still being plausible as something that you would actually turn into. Because deer at least have some dignity.
Yeah, man. I actually had weredeer show up in one of my recent ones. So
yes, I was like, I'm pretending that's an homage to me. Whenever people are reading your book and say like, "Hey, there's weredeer," I've had like 3 people walk up to me and is like, "Yeah, totally, Rick's homaging me."
I go for it.
I hate Sweet Tooth.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's a general point there. And I think I have 2 other book series set in there. First was the Esoterism series, that spies versus monsters thing I told you about, that I got the rights back like 4 years later.
Wow.
I just said, oh, this is the past before the Supernatural came out. Totally just lying my ass off and merging it with it, and it worked. People actually bought a couple of copies from the other ones. And finally, of the series that are set in this, I've already like 4 trilogies here, is Psycho Killers in Love.
That's a great title.
Which is my slasher novel, except set in an urban fantasy world. People love that one there, and I get more requests for that than anything. I'm like, why? It's a terrible book. It's making fun of how utterly pointless slasher movies are and just how they're excuses. And you know what? That's why we like it. I'm like, okay. The money keeps rolling on in. I'm going to go keep making sequels.
Pretty much. After a while, you just got to be like, I'm not questioning. I just give the people what they want.
Oh yeah. So that was the second universe, and the third universe is where I put all my sci-fi books. And I had the cyberpunk books, which are Agent G and Daughter of the Cyber Dragons. They do pretty well, but not great. And then I was like, I did my Star Trek space opera parodies, and like saying like, well, why didn't I say this takes place 200 years in the future from that? And I'm like, okay. And from there I went on and did my Firefly. This one's like, okay, this takes 800 years in the future after all of humanity's golden age of Star Trek fell apart.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it works there, but if I have a single fan who goes over, that's one more sale.
No, you're not wrong.
There you go. Jumping on the multiverse trend.
And you too can have your own massive multiverse if you write massive amounts of books for little to some money.
I've been playing around with little cameos from one book to another. Probably not enough to actually cause any read through, but right now it's kind of in the Easter egg stage.
Yes, you could have made so much more. I bought Second String Savior because it takes place in the Billverse, man. So it worked a little bit.
There you go.
But now I was like, why is it not Bentley with Bill? That could be a massive power couple.
Yeah,
and if you're wondering why I keep bringing this up there, it's in the couple of years I've known Rick, I am constantly bringing up shipping things like I'm a 13-year-old girl just to annoy him.
Rick, give the people what they want, damn it.
Well, here's the thing. I actually do. I like, once I hear enough of something, I will usually find a way to work into a book, but then fuck with it just enough to be like, here's just a little taste. Now I'm going to take it away from you.
Oh, yes. Yes, but it's always been my my little casual thought, the fandom there, that if I ever get shippers to contact me among my fandom, that's clearly when I've made it. if at some point some 15-year-old girl or middle-aged mom goes like, yes, your 2 male leads should get together, and I wrote fanfic, I'm like, yes, I have finally done it.
Yeah, definitely. When you have
this is the mark of a true success.
When you have people writing their own slash fanfic, there, you have definitely made it.
Yes.
I love your books, but here's my greasy little fantasy about some of your characters fucking. You're like, yes.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
Made it.
Oh yeah.
That would be the best, but then what would be the worst is if they pull an E.L. James and they change around just enough, and then they make $1 billion off of it, and nobody gives a shit about yours. It's just these poorly disguised characters of yours fucking.
I think the trick is to make your own fanfic.
Oh, if you want hard truth there, this is actually a thing I've mentioned there. I've told fanfic authors is like, yes, you should totally just knock off the dust of your thing and publish your fanfic as original fiction there, and you will possibly find a market there. And they're like, no, that's just unfair and working. I'm like, no, E.L. James did it. Now the gates are open. You can't you can't close the doors now.
Yeah,
the dimension is onto ours.
Yeah, and it takes a surprisingly little amount of work to to take something like that and move it away from where it's a copyright violation.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in her case, they're pretty much just saying, oh, they're not vampires anymore.
Yeah, well, you think that would be a big change, but apparently it's not. You just, and since I write parodies of popular genres, is pretty much my coda there. I pretty much am already protected copyright wise. But yeah, the whole point of the rules of Supervillainy was like, okay, what if Spider-Man had the credo of with great power comes great irresponsibility, but instead of having spider powers, he had the powers of a wizard. And then it's like, oh yeah, and on the cover there's this girl who blatantly looks like Harley Quinn, except more Red Riding Hoodish sexy costume. And I'm like, people look at that and it's like, okay, I'm buying it. And I'm like, I totally attribute my success to that. It's like Geeky Boy ends up with a pastiche of a comic book character I wanted to bang when I was a teenager. And I'm like, okay, let's go for it. I could say it's the quality of my writing and my skill, but no, it's much more primordial, and I don't give a shit.
This has got to be the most behind the mask indie author interview we've done yet. And we've had some people getting like pretty close to the bone of what it is we do. I don't think we've had somebody as cheerful as you, and yet as nihilistic.
That's horrifically realistic. I mean, I'm going to tell you about that whole fanfic kind of thing there. I blatantly say that there's probably not nearly as much difference between me and E.L. James as you think there, because when I was just like typing out randomly the Supervillainy saga there, I was like, oh, what would be, I need to fill up a few chapters. It was like, what if his ex-girlfriend comes to reveal, oh, and it's Supergirl. This, incredibly lame superhero geek guy, supervillain geek guy apparently used to be Supergirl's boyfriend, and now he's Harley Quinn's, and it's like, yeah, sure, why not? It's like believability. Who gives a shit?
Well, it's working for you, man. That's
yeah.
Oh, his wife becomes a vampire.
Well, at this point, why not?
Oh yeah, that's just the whole thing there, and it's a lot of fun there, and I Space Academy Dropouts. I'm not saying it's Mass Effect fan fiction, but it's it's Mass Effect, Star Trek, Blade Runner fan fiction, so therefore it's all original.
I love that your creative approach just seems to be kicking down a door with an armful of genres you love, saying, "Who gives a fuck? Let's do this."
I call it my margarita writing method. It's like, okay. It's a complete copy of this, and now throw in something else, put another thing in, and now we hit the blender.
Everybody loves a margarita.
Oh yeah.
It almost sounds like the entire writing process is almost around those cookies or so. It's like you take a bite. It's like, yeah. So it's like the character. He's like the Hulk, but he only rages out when he has to take a really massive shit.
I've all come up with, I regret not having a Hulk character in my book to parody, and it's like thing like, yeah, this is Sulk. He the sadder he gets, the stronger he gets. But what we have to say really depressing shit to him, and I hope he manages to hit the sweet spot where he's active enough to do anything.
You gotta get him so depressed he's super strong, but not too depressed he kills himself.
Yeah, it's pretty much there. Of course, he'll be blue because we're that's the perfect color for Sulk.
Yeah, his battle cries, "Sulk, weep."
Sulk sad.
Oh, the radioactive tears. That's just a perfect power, yeah.
You wouldn't like me when I'm pouting.
That'd be great. Like Thanos is beating everybody, and they're just trying. Like, your mother never loved you. Your father ran away because you were ugly.
The more effective the villain is at doing the gloating monologue, the more powerful the Sulk is going to become.
Oh yes. Though now I'm going to be going on to another wonderful, fun topic of ridiculous shit I've experienced as an author, which is when you somehow get a reputation as an author with an agenda, even though you're not. Yes, I'm sorry. We're going to get a little political here, there, and we can just edit this entire process out because clearly it's all radio.
Anyway, here's my manifesto.
Tell us about your toxic wokeness. Your toxic wokeness.
Oh yes, I make a point there. Whenever I get one of the 1-star reviews, and I get them often enough there. Today I got one that says that I hate all religious white people. And man, lady, I grew up in Kentucky. And, it's also funny there. And they gave me the 1-star review that, says I should just be ashamed of myself there. So, of course, the thing I did, I saved that onto my computer immediately and started sharing it around because that is great advertising. I think I sell like an extra 100 copies of the book whenever I get one of these reviews and share it around Twitter, because there's obviously these people who are going to be going like, well, clearly I need to go stand against these obnoxious assholes and buy a copy. I don't care if you read it.
Solid philosophy.
And it works. I think the NWA did the exact same thing with the FBI telling them they should stop talking about shooting cops. And, there's clearly such a similarity between me and them. Well, but yeah, no, here's the thing is, there are some very super sensitive readers on Twitter and Amazon and Audible and so on. And you never know what will set them off, but apparently you can do that very easily. And I've got no end of people talking about my quote unquote agenda. I think, which is first of all, apparently because I occasionally do include some gay or brown characters in my books.
How dare
that
you?
by itself is enough.
I think it's safe on this podcast to say you don't have to call them super sensitive. You could just call them assholes.
Oh yes, but it was the third book of the Supervilliany saga where I made the mistake of making a couple of Trump references with the President Evil. Yeah, his name is President Omega, but I think I was originally just flat out calling him President Evil because it's a superhero parody. But I guess I figured that Omega was less silly. Yeah, I think I said he had tiny hands, and there was a deluge of people who said I was hating America.
Yeah, one of my first angry reviews for my Bent series was somebody who wasn't appreciative that I put a Scientology joke in there. It was like, I enjoyed this book up until this joke, and obviously this person has no respect. Actually, you're right. I don't have any respect for that shit. But thanks for noticing.
Yes. I mean, it's like I'm a raging anarchist. My politics are very clearly worn on my sleeve there. But no, I don't write for my politics. I write because I think it's hilarious. And occasionally, yes, I'll throw in a jab there, but have a gross sense of humor. I think another good example of them, which is probably more appropriate for this podcast and just the sheer stupidity of it, I made a joke about in Space Academy 1 where they come across a bunch of neo-Confederate space pirates. And, the space pirates get arrested because, they're pirates. And the heroes shoot it out with them and finally arrest them, and they're shouting like, "You can't take our guns away. We have Second Amendment rights." And I'm like, and then the protagonist, Vance Turbo, to give you a sense of how serious I take my writing, Vance goes, "Lady, we're in space." And I thought that was hilarious, and so did plenty of my friends, conservative and otherwise. And then there was like 3 1-star reviews from people going like, "This is just propaganda. They're talking about how much you hate America." And I'm like, I wasn't making fun of America, guys. I was making fun of Firefly.
I was just going to say, I love the fact that you have a character named Vance Turbo, because I used to tell my wife that if I ever decide to start writing sci-fi, my pen name was going to be Dirk Nitro.
Oh yes, I just the whole thing takes the context that Vance is a Space Academy washout there, but he swaggers with the full Zap Brannigan kind of ordeal there with slightly more confidence and somehow makes it work.
Yeah, my only sci-fi protagonist is called Duke White Power.
I wonder what he's. I hope he's black.
No.
He's extremely white.
I got some comments on that one. Funny enough.
Really?
Yeah. I never would have guessed.
You don't say. Really, you're right. I never would have guessed. I assume it would have just been a deluge of love and lack of criticism.
No, but just like you're saying though, it's mostly. I don't think the South is fairly represented in this book.
You need a sense of humor about these things, which is what they're saying.
It's in space.
It's like, if you're going to freak the heck out by any joke, I think comedy is not a genre, or otherwise is not your forte.
Yeah.
Because inevitably a funny book will result in everyone being offended at some point.
Yeah, the first page of Space Puppy does have Jesus Christ as Chewbacca. It's like, if you've read past that page, everything else is on you, Take some responsibility for yourself.
Yes.
If you weren't offended by a major religious figure being portrayed as a Wookiee, then
I don't see anything offensive about that there. After all, C.S. Lewis portrayed Jesus as a lion, so clearly you're following in his magnificent Christian apologist footsteps.
There you go. Yeah.
I get that all the time.
I mean, clearly, obviously, we're both deeply all serious genre writers, speaking in dark symbolism and to the heart of the human experience.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
I
Rick
get that all
and
the
Turd.
time.
Oh yeah, I'm getting calls all the time from literature professors saying, "Hey, would you like to come in and discuss the symbolism within this? How you name this Sasquatch after a giant shit."
It's got to understand there. The use of the Bigfoot is about indigenous people and their relationship to nature being overwhelmed by the white disdainful establishment as represented by the vampires.
I will never say that because I will get my ass beat because I try to make the Sasquatches as fucking ridiculous as possible.
I understand that. That statement that I just said there was the most use I've gotten out of my literature degree.
What else is a literature degree for, really?
And if someone actually ever said that to you seriously or some kind of symbolism regarding your Sasquatches there, you should slap the shit out of them.
Oh, trust me, that'd be one of those ones where, I'd show up in a suit and tie and start talking all pretentious, and then about 5 minutes into it, be like, "What the fuck is wrong with all of you?"
Yeah, I mean, you can write a literary criticism of anything, and I have actually done so as a joke. I think I once did a paper on Star Wars: The Crystal Star, which was like the most YA of the old Legends books there, and the most ridiculously plotted. I think it had a giant Jello as the villain, and I wrote a 5-page paper on the presence of cults.
There you go. I mean, I'm astounded.
Okay, and now I'm embarrassed that I said that there. Let's go Dr. the Dick and Fart joke.
I'm astounded they didn't include that in the later movies. That sounds intriguing.
No, I'm not going there. I'm starting to open my mouth and give and I'm gonna give a 20-minute speech on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And no, I cannot
let's
do
hear
it.
your thoughts on Rise of Skywalker.
No, they killed it. They broke it. I don't know how they did it. It's irreparable.
Excellent. I mean, that about sums it up.
The thing that was my religion.
Pissed me off the most about that movie was all the plot shit that they edited out, that they were like, well, this is explained in the novel. Well, I don't want to read the fucking novel. I paid to see the fucking movie. So don't just have the Emperor show up out of nowhere and have everybody be like, oh, he's alive. We're not going to ask a damn single question.
That's the thing there. You actually have the fucking Emperor do a galactic broadcast, and you don't show the fucking galactic broadcast. You do it in Fortnite. I mean, I'm like, that is such a mistake of basic filmography that I don't even know how to respond to it. And we could be there all fucking night there, and the whole, of course, expense of clearly there was no plan, there were no answers. They were doing this right.
Yeah, they were pretty much doing the same thing that the Battlestar Galactica crew was. It's like, oh yeah, everything will be revealed. Oh God, we got to come up with answers to this shit.
Apparently, this is very common too, because that was also the X-Files and Lost. And I'm like, how fucking difficult is it to make a story Bible?
I mean, in all fairness, I think a lot of us as writers also do that, but we try to be competent enough to at least make it look like we had an idea what we were talking about.
I mean, you have at least a fucking idea of the answer if you throw out the question. With most writers at this point, it doesn't have to be a good idea. You can change your mind later, but you have an essential one quality that you can respond there. It doesn't have to, again, to be a good idea, but at least you have an answer. Just throwing it out there and saying I'll come up with something later is something I don't think any author I've known in genre will do that. And again, I write silly parody.
I think this is what you get when you get a system that is almost entirely dependent on somebody giving a really good pitch. Evolution creates people who are great at pitches, and they're like, yeah, they bought our concept. And they're like, oh shit, we've got to write a script now.
Something. Any series that gets past, 4 or 5 seasons, at that point when you're heading into the final season, that's where you bring in a couple super fans and you sit them down and be like, here's our ideas for ending it. And if their reply is that makes no fucking sense, then you change it.
The Battlestar Galactica one is the one that really fucking gets me there, because they underlined it in the very opening of the fucking credits there, that by lying to them, and the Cylons have a plan.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to like make shit up. It's another to blatantly state flat out that our premise is a
The
lie.
Cylons might have had a plan, but the writers did fucking not.
What is the plan? We don't have one. We threw it in because it sounded.
See,
cool.
something as a writer, you know what I would have done? I would have been like, hey, the Cylons have a plan. Oh, we just killed them all. I guess we're never going to learn it.
That would explain a lot about your later books, friend. No, seriously, I thought I came onto this to make fun of Rick's books there, and we're not. It's just I'm so ashamed.
Feel free. There's plenty to make fun of there.
We're establishing a dramatic rivalry. Ken and Ryu.
Are we going to have a dramatic lightsaber battle? At the next convention or so.
Yes.
Oh yes, absolutely yes.
Fans will demand it.
Oh yeah.
It's what we've been missing off the podcast. We need some manufactured rivalries. I don't care how manufactured they are.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And next year at Decon, it will be ritual combat.
There was a Penny Arcade series about the idea of like one of the characters, Tycho or his friend, and the idea that he had this hugely successful series as a B fantasy author that the other guy didn't even know about. And one time in the comics there, they go to a convention that's in his honor, and there he's like, oh my God, my rival. And he's like, you have a rival? It's like, absolutely. And the other guy just does not know who the fuck he is and starts whipping the moderator when he takes the camera away from him.
I think every convention needs that, yeah. Just some WWE moments.
It's like, yes, this is how it should be. This is how authors truly see themselves there.
I tried to start a rivalry with Bob Saget, but he never took the bait. R.I.P.
Such a shame.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think I have several secret rivals.
I mean, this was before he died.
All right, I was going to say, if you wait until after,
God, I hope so.
seems a bit one-sided.
One day, dead Bob Saget, I'm going to dig you up and skull fuck you.
Shit.
He did a couple of those jokes actually, which is hilarious. There's a movie called Half Baked where Bob Saget plays a former crack addict who used to suck men off.
There you go, Bevan. You never stood a chance.
Oh, no. I didn't expect to win the rivalry. I just hoped he would, I just wanted him to fight me.
I just wanted him to fight me before he died.
Oh, well.
That's
Well,
why
I
I'm going to
didn't
get
know he
out
was
on the
going to die
table.
so early.
Okay. Well, in any
Anyway.
case, I'm using my cell phone to respond here. It's like I'm sneaking up on Rick's house right now with the silencer gun. Perfect alibi, my friends. That's all I got to say.
This is what the indie author community needs. Just 2 nerds enter, 1 nerd leaves. Let's get some stakes going.
Yeah. I mean, celebrity slap fight.
We could reinvigorate the entire convention process.
Back when I was at college, they always used to have
Oh, yes.
for all of their stupid festivals, they would always get like this thing called bouncy boxing. And I always thought that would be an awesome thing to to do at conventions, where you have the 2 headliners and you just put them in a bounce house with big inflatable boxing gloves just to see who wins.
Yeah, I'm going to flat out say there, if more conventions had bouncy castles, there wouldn't be any of these going around talking to authors things there. I would never leave.
So yeah, you can chat to me, but you're going to have to get in the bouncy house.
Yeah.
Talking to Neil Gaiman or the bouncy castle, I'm like, I'm sorry, Neil, you've lost.
Guys, I think you might be onto something.
Hmm.
This is how we can save A&D-Con.
And Decon 2023, we need a bouncy house.
Yes, bouncy house, big ball, There was actually on RPG.net, they shared the saddest cons ever, and one of them was like a My Little Pony con where there was like a very small number of tail and the saddest little ball pit ever.
I'm going to take down Joe.
And interesting enough there, I had a good story behind Space Academy dropouts there. I was submitting to Podium Audible to see like if I can maybe get a new series going and with a new publisher and see if they will be able to reach a larger audience and see if there's a crossover. So I did 2 books for them at the start, one after the other, just ramming them out there because I said like I have this trilogy ready to go, and they was like, okay, good, get us in 2 months, and I'm like, oh shit, because I hadn't written a word. So I finish up the 2 books there and get it to them without sleep for like the entirety of November and December there, and they're like, okay, thank you, we'll probably publish this in a few months, and I'm like, oh good, and there. And so the books finally get published there. It's like, and they contacted me. It's like, and they're like, oh, when is the 3rd book going? And it says like, well, you said you had a year. It's like, yeah, I can get out next month. So yeah, and I'm like, okay, absolutely.
At that point, they're just trolling you. Like, oh, when's it gonna be due? About
Oh,
6
yes.
months. Well, we'd like it in 2.
Hey, man, I'm good. It's selling pretty well there, so I guess I'm entirely okay with that.
There you go. This is what you need the distractions for. It's like, if you want the book, come fight me in the bouncy house. You can have the book.
Oh, that needs to be a level in Street Fighter 6 or so. It's like the bouncy castle.
I will release the audiobook if 100 people can defeat me in the bouncy.
We need to shake things up a bit. I think that's been established, and I think CT is definitely on something here.
Yeah, it's like Kickstarters are so passe.
I make my yearly wage making sex stories about superheroes and Star Trek. So hey, man, I'm living the dream.
This is how we fight back against the Zoomers who clearly don't need editors or publishers or anything really, just by pile driving them into a bouncy house.
Oh yes,
that's all we got. A superior bulk and a bouncy house.
We would be like the Ooey Bowl of authordom.
That's all I've ever really wanted, Rick.
I mean,
pretty much.
Bowl offends so much of us there because somehow we got to manage to make a living out of making really shitty movies of things we love.
He's living the dream.
Yeah, he figured out that, like, hey, if I just make crap movies and they fail, I get these huge tax breaks. And apparently he has a big enough ego that he doesn't give a shit how many hearts he breaks by, like, destroying franchises.
So, people love this shit, don't they? They don't care if I do it good or not. They'll come and see it anyway.
To put on my my asshole geek hat is like says, like, oh yeah, I'm sure Bull really cares about what you think. Now he's making a live action Blood Rain movie with lots of nudity. Yeah, he's just gonna really feel it.
And Bowl absolutely will fight you in a bouncy house as well.
Oh yeah. Well, as long as he doesn't see my shiv, it'll be fine.
Well, this has been an absolutely intriguing peek behind the curtain of the realities of the indie world for us genre writers. No holds barred, but very entertaining nonetheless. Bleak vision of the bouncy house fueled carnage of the future, but I'm here for it. I think that's what needs to happen in order for the art to survive.
CT, tell us where people can find you and your stuff. Plug away.
Well, I go on Amazon for the Kindle Unlimited for all of my series except the Supervilliany Saga because I make way too much money selling it directly. And Audible is probably the best place to get the books because they're more expensive and I make more money that way. And all of my books are on audio. And finally, I actually have had my first book translated into a different language with the Rules of Supervilliany now available in German.
Ooh. I love how completely unvarnished about this you are. If anyone listening to this is hoping to become a writer, get into the game and self-publish, I think this is probably the most useful podcast you could listen to.
Yeah, it's like right now we can tell you, fuck your art. Listen to this shit.
I'm just saying that if you want to know what it will make you a success as an author, yeah, everyone wants to know that, asshole.
Dude, you got to write a self-help book.
Well, if I'm going to recommend anyone else's books there, I clearly will recommend Rick's book. No, I'm kidding. I recommend Stephen King's On Writing, which is has the exact same attitude of, I stumbled into this massive amount of success here. Here's roughly some ideas here. And that conversational tone makes it great.
I always love dealing with the ones who are all like, so what's the secret? Keep playing the lottery and eventually hope you get lucky.
Yeah, not inspiring, but
so what was
true.
Your secret of winning the lottery? Well, I paid off the guy who runs the balls and we split the money.
There's going to be two types of people listening to this. Those who are inspired by it and those who are absolutely devastated by it. But, either way, if you're out there, good luck with your writing career.
Indeed.
Why do you hate white people of faith, CT? Why?
Yeah, it's doubly funny there because I'm going to also point out the fact there only is one explicitly religious character in the books. That's the protagonist. So clearly they were just looking for something to be offended on there, and they're of course going to find it.
Well, it's the national pastime these days.
Oh yeah,
you're doing a service. You got to keep these people busy.
Oh yes, but again, the best part about these incredibly reactionary, ideology-driven bad reviews is they're going to be the best advertising you can get. So look at that.
Agreed.
On that note, yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been enlightening. We've had a great time. Listeners, please do go pick up books from one of his various series, or all of them for preference, I imagine. And we'll see you next time on SideQuest. Bye.
Goodbye, friend.
Bye.